mother away, and I never saw her again. Never saw her again. From that time on, everything is such a blur in my mind, because I think that the moment they took my mom away, I think that something died in me, and I cannot make any sense out of this whole thing, because everything is jumbled in my mind. The dates, I know what happened to me, but I still cannot come to grip with it that it really happened.
So what happened? I know it's hard on you.
My father, they all of a sudden, I don't remember whether they also took my father also on the premises where he was working, on the Bauhof. I think that because I didn't see right very shortly after that roundup when my mother went away, all of a sudden it was just Gina and I in the ghetto, just the two of us.
And
there was my father wasn't there, so he was the place where he was working, they decided to keep them there apparently, or move them or whatever. I do not know exactly, because I never had a chance to see him again or find or know what happened.
You mean he went out to work and never came back?
That's it. I just didn't see him anymore. Then it was just my sister and I, and we were struggling. We were trying to find in the meantime, they threw us out from the place where we lived, because they were shortening the ghetto, they were tightening it, they were moving people from one place to another. And somehow or other we found a room in my other aunt's store. My aunt used to have a store on one of the streets that were still considered ghetto. So we found a place there, my sister and I, just the two of us. And we tried the best way we knew how to support ourselves and to I don't know how. Well, I went to work in the morning and Gina went to her work, and we were just in seventh heaven if we came back in the evening and saw each other. And then very shortly after this, my cable factory where I was working decided that they will take the 300 of us that were working with them out, that they were starting to build the big concentration camp in Płaszów, which was not exactly the same place where my factory was a few miles away from them. But they decided that they will take our 300 first out of the ghetto while they were building the big camp, and they will put us there so that we wouldn't have to go that far away from ghetto, only we would go from Płaszów to the place where we were working. And at that time they also decided that since we are working together with Polish people in the factory, we have to look different so that they can recognize us. So they took away our clothes and they gave us, that was my first introduction to the stripe uniforms.
Already in Płaszów.
Right there. They took away our clothes, they gave us those striped, shapeless things, coats, and they cut our hair off. All the women had to have all the not shaved, but cut very close to the scalp. So when we would come on the floor to work in the factory, that any visitors or anybody would be there, they would know exactly that these are the
Jews?
slave labor Jews that, you know, like they
Because
have
the
to
Poles
be.
were working with
Poles were working with us, not necessarily sitting next to us, but in the same room. And if we were in the same room, we had to look differently so that everybody would recognize who we are. Then we heard the rumors that the ghetto in Krakow is being liquidated.
Where was your sister at that
My
time?
sister was still in the ghetto.
Yeah.
But that was a short, in a stretch of a few weeks or few months. They were liquidating the ghetto in Krakow, but in the meantime, I heard the rumors that my sister might come to Płaszów, so we'll be united again. But the moment, maybe few days before my sister came to Płaszów, they took us from Płaszów and put us on the premises of the factory in barracks there. So again we were separated.
When you were in Płaszów and worked in the factory, did you hear about Schindler and his factory?
Oh,
About the
of
Amman
course.
factory?
Oh, absolutely. We heard about Schindler. We heard about
How did you hear about him?
Well, that he had a emulsion fabric, that he had a factory that he was making utensils,
Yes.
and that he needed a certain amount of people for it. But of course, I was already secured in the cable factory, and besides, I probably I didn't have anybody there that would know me, that could put me there. Or
Did
not,
you know
I
that it was? Did you know that it was a better camp? That the people got more to eat? Did you know about
Well,
it?
we
Was
didn't
there
know
any
at that
rumors?
time. We did not know whether that was different than anything else. There was no communication, and you know, you have to take under consideration that I was 13 years old at that time. What did I know? What was happening? You know. It was very, very difficult. This is people that were only 4 or 5 years older could already had more information. I was like a sheep that was following the crowd. What did I know? I didn't have any sister or mother or uncle or aunt or anyone with me.
But they didn't know your age, did they?
Oh, at that time they knew my age.
They knew your
yeah,
age.
Yeah. There were still few people my age at that time. That was even in Płaszów, in the big camp, they still had children. The roundup of the little children from Płaszów came while we were in the, I don't know. It was came during the time that I was on the cable fabric. You know, all these things were in the big, we were even taken 2 or 3 times from our factory to the big camp in Płaszów for so-called Entlausung. It was supposed to be to clean us up. And even at that time, even though I knew that my sister is there, I didn't have a chance to see her. There were thousands of people there, and we could not go where we pleased. You know, and my sister was trying desperately to get maybe to be transferred to the cable fabric where I was working, or I should go to the big camp to be with her, but somehow or other it never worked out. It just did not. There were always obstacles in our. We were children. We were kids. What could we didn't have? We didn't even have our parents with us to fight for us and try to do something for us.
You had to survive by yourself.
In the meantime, we were informed that there is going to be that they rounded up some people, 70-some people that were working at the Bauhof. That was where my father was supposed to be. That they found somebody smuggling bread or whatever from the men that were in Bauhof, and they decided that they are going to shoot them, all of them, because
all
of
the
it.
old people, everybody that
Everybody had to stand on the we had to
Appel,
stand
yes.
on the upper, or they called me. I wasn't there. I was in my factory, but
I know,
we heard
but you heard
about
about
it.
it, yeah.
That they round them up, and we didn't know for what. And then they round them up and they shot them. They shot
Right
everybody. all these men, and of course my father was among them. But then somebody told me that one person from these people escaped. And of course in my mind, it had to be my father, because how could I accept the fact that my father is dead? You know, it was just impossible. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way. So that was my sister. I found out later had to stand on the place and watch them shoot my father, and we had to stay in
At that time, your sister was still
in
together
Plaszow.
in Plaszow, and your father was also going out of Plaszow to work.
But my father was already on the place there, where the Bauhof people were. But somebody tried to smuggle into his wife or to whomever a loaf of bread, and they found it. Not necessarily from Plaszow.
And how many people were there at that time?
There were all kind of rumors, 75, 76 in that group. But my father was among them. And so we knew that our father was dead. Well, we knew, I didn't know, because in my mind my father was the one that escaped.
But Gina saw him being killed.
Gina was right there. Then anyway, we were trying in Kabel factory. There are a few from our Krakow association people that were with me in Kabel, and they, there was a group of us that we tried desperately to do a little bit sabotage work in the Kabel fabric. Like I was winding wires over spools like this, so we were in a cahoot with one of the engineers that knew my father before the war, and there were 3 or 4 others. There were about 15 of us or so, especially when we worked on a night shift, to put extra few rounds on the spools, hoping that it will dysfunction the aeroplanes or whatever it is. Anyway, somehow or other, or we tried the very best we could to do some kind of but they found 15 of our people were caught, and they were shot in Kabel.
In Kabel.
Also, yeah.
Tell me, how was the food in Kabel?
Terrible.
I know,
Just
it was terrible.
very,
but
very
what did you
terrible. But of course, the women were separate and the men were separate, and we had to have our hair constantly cut. The women had to have the hair cut very short to the scalp.
I know, but what happened to the food? What kind of food did you get?
We would be getting, they would cook some soup that was mostly water with turnips in it, and who knows what. If you found a piece of potato in it or whatever, it was a miracle of miracles. Maybe, I don't remember, 1 or 2 slices of bread for the whole day. Marmalade, jam, kind of jam that was made out, who knows from what, a little tiny bit of it, and some ersatz coffee that was just some brown water or whatever. It was just terrible, a 14-hour shift to work, and then come to the barracks and clean the barracks and clean clean the premises, and had Ukrainian soldiers watching us all the time and beating us and just for the slightest little thing. I had, as a matter of fact, I was about a few seconds late coming into the hall where I was working, and one of the Ukrainian soldiers that were watching us, on the command from he reported me right away to the German one, and they hit me with a butt of a rifle and knocked 3 of my teeth out from there, which it took me until 1949 to replace, by the way.
But at that time nothing hurt,
Well,
did it?
doesn't matter. That was just one of the indignation. It was constant fear and constant, just terrible. And then they said that...
You just tell us everything that you can remember. I know you blocked out a lot of it. A lot of people did, but tell us anything that comes to your head that you remember.
Well, of course we didn't get any wages whatsoever. And we have been...
and you were wearing those striped uniforms all the time?
All the time. We had to... And of course there were no facility to wash. We had a little bit of trickling water that was... We were supposed to keep clean because we were coming to the factory to be among the Poles. But we were not given any soap or anything, so we were washing with sand if we found, or just whatever, under the trickling water was really, really very, very terrible, because the straw we were living in those barracks was a little bit better than later in Birkenau, because Birkenau was a complete hell, but it was terrible even there. Or it was very, very, it was just incredible. It was just the only thing I think that kept us sane was that we
died from hunger, from film.
Not from. I don't think there were. I think maybe 2 or 3 people died from just overworked or beating or whatever, and I know the 15 that were shot, that were caught. Then there were some that tried to escape, and they were shot also. The beating was for every little thing. For example, we were supposed to do a certain amount of parts had to be done, and they were weighed in the morning and to determine how many were done, and if you didn't do your quota or whatever, they would take you in a room and beat the hell out of you, excuse my expression. And it just very terrible things. And the indignation and the dirty Jew and the verfluchte Jude and the Schwein and this and that all the time.
And the Poles didn't try to help you?
Well, there were, I suppose there were maybe some Poles that tried, but they were also very, very afraid, because they would have been punished right away. And besides, unfortunately, the Polish people were not very sympathetic to the Jews, and I don't have the best of memories of any. I haven't gotten any special help from, except for this one engineer that knew my father before the war, and he did not help me. It's just that he trusted me, since he knew my parents and a group of other people, that we could do the sabotage work, because I guess he knew that if they catch anyone, the Jew would be one that would be the scapegoat, or what. Maybe I'm too bitter about it, but that's how it is. Then eventually there were rumors that they are going to take us out.
How many years were you in the
I was there until 1944, about the September, I think, August or September of 1944. 2 years.
2 years. Yeah.
And I was then they were rumors that they are liquidating. No, that they are liquidating They are taking us out of there.
Of the factory.
And they will take us to the main camp in Płaszów, back in Płaszów again. Of course, again, I hope that I will be together with my sister again. I knew that she was still there. We tried through some people or whatever to be in contact with each other. Maybe it happened 2 or 3 times a year or whatever, I don't know. But I knew that she was still in Płaszów, and she knew that I was still in Kabul, and I thought, my God, maybe now we'll finally be together. So one day they told us, just be ready, and we are taking you back to the camp in Płaszów. And we came to Płaszów, and we found out that a whole, a big group of people was sent out of Płaszów, and my sister was among them. She wasn't there anymore. They sent her away. And we found out that they sent them to Auschwitz.
How did you find out? Rumors?
Well, rumors.
Did you know about Auschwitz there?
Well, there were rumors about Oświęcim, about Auschwitz. There were all kind of rumors. They were saying that people are disappearing, and is there an Auschwitz? Is it true? Is it not true? What's happening? In the meantime, they brought a lot of Hungarian women to Płaszów, Jewish women.
That was already in 1944.
44.
Yeah.
And it was, by the time I came back from Kabul to Płaszów, Płaszów was terrible. It was half empty already. And apparently, of course, at that time I didn't know that, but the Russians were coming toward Poland, and so they tried to cover up what was there. So they put us, I and the people that were with me in Kabul and many others, we were under order to start digging the people that were killed in Płaszów and buried with that so-called, what they called it, bugger or whatever, that was when they shot people, they have this machinery that used to mix them with the ground. So this time we had to dig all the bones and all the flesh out, and they were burning them. Little did I know that who knows, that I might have dug out my father's bones, my father's flesh. He was right there, and I had to work for weeks doing this. Anyway, my sister wasn't there anymore. We were there a few weeks. After the few weeks, they rounded us up and sent us to Auschwitz, to Birkenau actually. And lo and behold, after they took off, they shaved our heads completely. They took the striped clothes that I had from Kabul. They took this off from us and mixed it up with everything else, and we were going after the selection. I don't even want to elaborate about
I think
Birkenau.
you should please tell us about Birkenau. Please.
Well, we came to the Birkenau is the
Judith,
whole...
excuse me for interrupting. This is something that we are doing for people to know, and we are not here anymore. So
I
please
think that
tell us.
everybody already knows about it.
No.
They were selecting the people. It just so happened that when I came with my group to Auschwitz, to Birkenau, they ran out of tattoo ink, and so I didn't get a tattoo on my hand, on my arm. I don't know whether they ran out or something went wrong or whatever. The group that I was with did not get the tattoo. And after we went through that, they took us into to take a shower. And of course there were rumors, everybody was saying, try not to go there, try to escape, try to run, because these are not showers, this is gas, and they are going to kill you, and it was like some kind of even though you heard about it, you saw the ovens, you smelled the flesh burning. People, the ones that were already there, were telling you that this is what it is. I don't know, I can only speak about myself. I thought they are telling me some kind of a horror story. This is not possible. How can it be possible?
With everything
you know?
that you went through, you still didn't believe it.
No, I looked at it and I didn't believe it. I smelled it until today. I just had in the engineering company that I was working for over 20 years here. We had some kind of I was working with aerospace here, and they were some material, and that was in 1983 or 84, some little bit of a material burned there, and somehow or other the smell of it came to me, to the desk where I was sitting and doing my research work on what I was doing, and I almost freaked out. That was 1984, because all of a sudden I had the smell of burning bodies. They actually had to remove me, take me to the nurse, and my heart started to beat like this. I was going crazy, because the smell all of a sudden reminded me of this.
The dead bodies.
Yeah, I mean, these are things that are embedded in you. You can't get rid of it. Smells or sounds or something. Even if you try to tell yourself, you look at the things and you say it's impossible. You look at people running to the electric wires and you see them being electrocuted, and you want to block this out. It didn't happen. I was listening in my mind. I tried to listen to the Ninth Symphony of Beethoven, or to see a ballet on the stage in my mind, because how could I believe this? Yeah, I was lucky. Maybe it was a nature taking over for young children. I don't know. I was reciting poetry. My sister is sometimes asking me, how come that you remember poems that I learned she was already in high school, she was older than me. I have been learning poems that you didn't have it yet in school. How come that you remembered them? And that was my survival kit in concentration camp. When these things were happening, I was reciting poems to myself to block everything out of what was happening, because I think that I think subconsciously I knew that I would probably never survive if I would just look the reality in the face. But anyway, coming back to what happened in Auschwitz was that in Birkenau was that after all that bath and after that we did survive, it was really some cold water came down and a trickle of water or whatever, and of course they jumbled up all our previous clothes and gave us whatever. I got one Holland shoe, one of those, you know, the Holland, and shoes. One that was just unbelievable. But anyway, here, all of a sudden, somebody is telling me that there is my sister coming here, that she's right here, that there is a group of women from Krakow, from Płaszów, and they are right here, they are right there. And here comes my sister in front of me, which I wasn't absolutely sure. Of course, I didn't see myself, there were no mirrors, but I saw her with the shaven head. And I couldn't believe it, that it really is Gina, you know. It was just unbelievable. But she found out that there was a transport from Płaszów, and that I am there, and she was already there a few weeks or whatever. So she was already she already knew a little bit more of what, and of course she tried desperately to save me, to do something for me, to help me out. And she took me to her barrack, where she was in, and covered me up with on this. There was those 2 or 3 layers like bunk beds. You cannot call them bunk beds because they were like tires. And she put me on the very top there and covered me with some straw, put me underneath this, and with whatever was there, she put it over me and hid me there, in case that if they are going to look for me, that I could stay with her, that they wouldn't find me. And
Judith,
No, 10
not
seconds. Yeah.
yet. Not yet. I can tell.
just touch my shoulder.
Yes.
So tell me, Judith, what happened when she covered you and she...
Well, my sister covered me the best way she could.